Hey folks, this is Kalani. I want to talk to you about the Frozen Orb build for Wizard in Diablo 3. Now this is the build you'll see me running around with in pretty much all of my videos, unless I decide to change it up, because it's A, my favourite build by far, and B, incredibly efficient, to the point where it may actually be sort of broken. So what it revolves around is Arcane Orb with the rune Frozen Orb. Now the icicles that you can see do damage, the big orb does damage, and everything hits multiple times. The slight issue is that there's rumours and talk about it maybe hitting harder than intended. So it hits like a truck right now, that might get tweaked in the near future. So we'll see exactly what happens with that, but let's have a look at the build anyway. So it revolves around Arcane Orb, as I say. The issue with this is that essentially it costs 30 arcane power, so it's not really spammable. We can get a few off, and then we run out of arcane power. So the rest of the kit is there to subsidise that and help with the regeneration of arcane power, so you can spam your arcane orbs and frozen orbs a little bit more. So let's start with the primary. This is going to be used whenever you don't have enough arcane power for an arcane orb. And you want to run with Surge of Power because you get more arcane power rather for each enemy you hit. Now it can hit up to 3 targets, so that's 3 arcane power every time you cast Electrocute. Storm Armor works really well if you don't have any arcane power on crit. When you get arcane power on crit, you can change this out, but we'll have a look at variations a little later. This is amazing because it reduces the arcane power cost of all skills, including Arcane Orb, by 3. So you go ahead and use that, and everything costs a little less, meaning that roughly every 9th or so you get a free Arcane Orb, whereas you would have to use a lot more Electrocutes if you weren't using Storm Armor. Now, Teleport can be used if but and maybe. You can swap this out quite happily for pretty much anything you want. Teleport just works really well to get around the battlefield for me. You can use things like Frost Nova to keep yourself safe, Diamond Skin, that kind of thing, but Teleport seems to work the best. Now, Arcane, or rather Familiar and Arcanaut work really well because you regenerate 2 arcane power per second while your Familiar is active. You also get a little bit extra damage. Now, that regeneration is obviously going to help with your Arcane Orb spamming. And because Arcane Orb doesn't have a cooldown, we literally just need more arcane power, and I mean, if we're using this spender, which is ridiculously strong, there's not really a reason to use another spender, so passive abilities are really great, such as Magic Weapon and Force Weapon. An increase of 20% on your damage is pretty ludicrous for something you're going to kind of use and ignore. So when we come down to passives, one thing you want to use is Prodigy. Now, that means every time you electrocute, you're now getting 8 arcane power instead of the 3 previously. It's ludicrous for Arcane Orb, it really is. Cold Blood is brilliant because whenever you chill, which is all the time, you do an additional 10% damage to that creature. So it's free 10% damage, which is really nice, especially if you run in groups. Glass Cannon is what I prefer to run, simply because it's a ranged build. You can happily kite things to death, which is amazing, but if you're finding you're taking a little bit too much damage, you can swap it out for Blur or Dominance. Those both work really well. So, essentially what you'll be doing is cutting through mobs like butter. You really will. Let's go have a little look-see. So I mentioned that you can make a few variations. Now, this build works perfectly as long as you have Arcane Orb and Frozen Orb. It really does. The first few that I can mention are obviously Teleport, you can swap for whatever you want. Storm Armor, you can swap to Energy Armor with Pinpoint Barrier if you manage to get some arcane power on crit gear. That may not work so well later on, but it works brilliantly right now. You can also swap the Familiar from Arcanaut. Again, you need good sources of arcane power to Icicle, to help with CC, or Spark Flint for more damage. Now there's one last change you can make, but it seems to be rather specific. So I've got a Mirror Ball. Now this means that Magic Missile fires one extra missile. This makes the damage of Magic Missile ridiculous. So I actually run with Magic Missile and Glacial Spike, because this hits pretty good. It's good damage, it's not ridiculous damage, it's good damage, but now it hits twice. It also freezes, helping with CC, and every part of plus cold damage that I get for Frozen Orb also works on my Arcane Power generator, which is fantastic. So, I mean, this is what I've been running with for quite a while. I typically run Storm Armor to help with things because I'm using Icicle. It just works really well. The synergy is there. Obviously, if you're freezing stuff with Glacial Spike, it's a lot easier to kite. That automatically gives you your Cold-Blooded bonus, which is really nice. You've got the bonus damage from literally everywhere, and you just rip through stuff so easily. But that's the Frozen Orb build, the one I've been running, and obviously my slight variation. So, thanks for watching, folks. Good luck and have fun, and as always, I will see you next time.